Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve, my co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode we're going to be talking about Den of Thieves, the 2018 film, which is currently on Netflix. Obviously, we're going to spoil this film for those who've not seen it before. You've been warned.
Yes.
So this is quite a long film. It's about 2.5 hours, or just under 2.5 hours. Yeah. And I knew nothing about it except what you told me previously and who some of the cast were. And I went in fairly cold. How about you?
Yeah, similarly, to be honest, because I think I'd offered up some options of a couple of old films or a new film. And I literally went with this of like, okay, it says action film. Gerard Butler's in it. It's the directorial debut of the guy who wrote London Has Fallen. Let's Christian Goodgast, I believe, who wrote and directed this. Let's give it a go. So, yeah, I went into it I knew there was a den in it. I knew there was some thieves in it. And I didn't know very much more than that.
Okay. So we should say what the story is about at a very loose level. It's about a group of very, very dodgy, I would say, an elite unit of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department,
yep,
who go after bank robbers, high-profile bank robbers. They are a group of people who aren't really very nice themselves.
They even say it, really. At one point, Gerald Butler's character, who leads the task force, who's called Big Nick O'Brien.
Big Nick, yes.
Big Nick. I think it might be rhyming slang. He says, we're the real bad guys here. And it kind of almost feels like that.
Well, yeah, because he said at one point the FBI guy says to him, how can you afford that jacket and that sort of stuff on your salary? So there's suggestions
of corruption,
of taking money perhaps from crime scenes and the bank robberies that they're investigating. They're all a really dodgy crew. Like, none of them dress smartly. They're all drinking and smoking all the time and staying out, disregarding their families and all this kind of stuff. And they're the kind of heroes of the
I know,
film.
but I did that. I think for me, that's where because, we're going to spoil it, like we say, but this film wants to be heat. It painfully wants to be heat. This guy wants to make the next Michael Mann film, and I think there's real parallels between how this film does things and how Heat works. In Heat, though, you kind of go, oh, there's these two sides, but I probably favour the cops. Here, I'll be honest with you, by the end of it, my empathy was with the criminals. Which maybe some of that's the casting, maybe some of it's the writing, but I was quite surprised. One thing really took me back at the start was the stat about the number of bank robberies in LA.
Yeah.
Assuming that's true,
I guess
it must be. A bank is robbed in LA every 48 minutes of every day. That's a lot.
That is a lot, yeah. Yeah.
You get a bank robbed in a town over here, that's going to be front page of the local news. And it's almost like you could probably see one bank robbery from the next. It feels like it's just one, just what happens here.
Just one of those things.
Yeah, yeah.
The perks of living here. That's what you get.
Exactly.
Look out, kids. Yes. So you've got this group of very dodgy, murky characters who are supposed to be the good guys, and then you've got the group of criminals who are this elite crew of guys who go around doing special jobs, led by Merriman, who's played by the amazing Pablo Shreiber. I think he's incredible. Have you seen him in much?
I'd never seen him in anything before this, and I didn't realize until afterwards he's Liv Schreiber's half brother.
Yes, that makes sense.
But I came away from this film going, yeah, Gerard Butler's quite good, but that he owns this film really, and he's just by his just sheer presence really. It's just something about him that he's the best thing in this film for me.
So he's been in tons of stuff. So the first thing I saw him in a few years ago was probably early 2013. He was in Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
And he's playing an awful, awful character in that called Porn Stash, Well, that's a nickname they give him because he's got this very dodgy mustache, the character. And he's a horrible character. And you think, oh, God, he's such a greasy weasel. And he's supposed to be. And then he's in American Gods, and he plays a character called Mad Sweeney, who's this mouthy, loud, obnoxious, but character that you can't help but like. And I just thought, it's that thing of, we watch some films and you say, Tom Cruise does do good action films. I'm not going to deny that. But it's always Tom Cruise. I never buy that he's another character. I completely lose sight of Pablo Shreiber when I watch him on screen. He becomes that character. And I just go, yeah. So in this, I wasn't even thinking of Mad Sweeney or Porn Stash from Orange is the New Black. I was just thinking that he's Merriman. He's this super, safe cracking, awesome leader, mastermind criminal who has this great crew. And he knows exactly what he's doing.
And that's one of the other interesting things is that the crew are ex-military, so they are acting with precision. And the other reasons I think that I kind of rooted for them, I mean, the whole film's kind of inciting incident or whatever is that they accidentally kill a cop because one of the guys is a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
But up until then, they have done the most robberies, but they don't hurt anyone. And
no,
so
not unless they attack them first.
Yeah. So you kind of... What I also liked about it in terms of the cast is that obviously I knew Gerard Butler. I knew Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, who we've seen in both the Escape Plan movies. But other than that, most of the cast, there were a few they're from something, but I can't remember what, or people I didn't know at all. So the guy who plays Donnie, O'Shea Jackson Jr., he's Ice Cube's son, and he played Ice Cube in Straight Out of Compton, which I haven't seen yet. So... And then you've got Cooper Andrews from The Walking Dead. He's I think he's a Samoan guy.
Yeah.
And then Meadow Williams, who plays the wife. I've never seen anything before. Apparently she's in a film from last year called Backtrace with Sly Stallone and Matthew Modine.
I've not seen that either.
But I think it was quite years ago you'd see these films where you wouldn't really know many of the cast, and it was quite refreshing because, like you say, you just buy the roles. But I think nowadays, if you can do an ensemble piece like this, they tend to put lots of faces in.
Yes.
But I think actually what made this stronger and what I think made it more compelling was the fact that I was kind of lost in the story world pretty quickly. Even though you only see the kind of robbers in masks for the first sort of 15, 20 minutes.
Well, speaking about characters, I'll get this out of the way. There's one thing I didn't like about the film is that at the beginning, they have the robbery, and you're talking about, and it starts with Big Nick. So you have the robbery, and then it goes on screen. You get this text popping up, which is really annoying, and it says Big Nick, and you're like, okay, so we're following his story, and then it goes back to Merriman, who we've already seen, and then it goes Merriman, and you go, okay, so these are the two kind of people. This is, Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty, right? I've got it. These are the two opposing forces, and then suddenly you get. Is it Laveau on screen?
Yeah.
And I'm like, right. So now we're going to get his story. I don't know. We'll get a bit of. Does it go to a fourth person on the other side?
Yeah, I think it does. And then it starts doing the same things with places.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of flashbacks. It is confusing, and it feels a bit. It feels like something from Lock, Stock.
Dated.
It does feel dated.
It wasn't. If they just left it at the first two, that would have been fine. Or if they'd just not done it at all, I would have preferred it. But it was just irritating. I'm like, stop doing that. You're breaking the fourth wall in a way, but you're taking me out of the story. You've already said there's armed robberies every 47 minutes and blah blah blah. Right, I'm in the story. Let's go with these characters. I'm trying to buy Gerard Butler as Big Nick O'Brien, and he was fairly convincing as quite a horrible person. But stop putting these barriers up that push me out of the film.
I think it did a similar thing because you've got this big kind of robbery at the start, and then so you've been following the robbers. You don't really know who they are, and then you find out the aftermath of them having killed somebody, and you go, right, we're cop killers now. Things have changed, and you go, this is exciting. And then it moves across to Nick and his team, and you think, okay, like you say, I've seen one side, I've seen the other, and then they kind of piece together who some of the crew are, and the police grab Donnie, who is the driver, the guy who said is played by Ice Cube's son, and then the film shifts again because for about 15 minutes maybe they're beating him up pretty badly and getting him to give them information, and as he's giving them information, it's kind of flashbacks and you're being pieced together how all the crew came together. And you suddenly go, okay, I was following this film that's doing one thing. Okay, it's not that now. It's going to all be flashback and we're going to be focusing on this guy. And then once he's kind of released and back with them, it shifts back again to Nick.
Yeah.
And it's hard at times to work out I think it's supposed to be Nick's film. Well, I think it's very much supposed to be Nick's film, but it's not always that clear because it's such a big cast. Although a few of the characters I think get lost. I felt like I got to understand the Merriman's crew really well. But apart from like one guy, Nick's team, like, again, we're spoiling, like one of them got shot and I was like, I don't actually recognize that guy.
Yeah. I agree. Big cast of characters. I know nothing about any of them apart from Merriman, 50 Cent Jackson, because you get, his character Laveau. You get that weird scene with his daughter going on her prom or something, and the boyfriend turns up and they scare him, and we've seen that before, and it was amusing, but equally I'm like, okay, so now we're getting stuff about him and we're supposed to sympathize with him and see that he's a family man and blah blah blah. I'm thinking, yeah, but constantly jumping heads all the time, you can't get attached to anyone for too long. I can't name anyone on Nick's crew at all. No one. And then when he gets shot, I just kind of go, meh, whatever, because I don't really care about them because I don't know about them. So I don't know what, I think they should have just ignored some of the family stuff, because you get that stuff with...
Oh, his wife.
His wife leaves him because he's been cheating and got the wrong text and all the rest of it and all that kind of stuff, and the kids and the separation and the divorce. And then one of his friends sort of says, welcome to the club. We'll go through that. And I'm thinking... So now we're supposed to feel sympathy for Nick's character. And I really don't, because he's not a very nice person at all either. So I'm constantly being pushed from one character to another with the focus of the film. And I think the film is none of this. I think the film actually belongs to the armored truck. That's the star of the film. Because
it's the only one that's got a linear story.
It has, if you think about it. So the film is actually should have been told from the perspective of the armored truck, who gets savagely attacked at the beginning, gets remade and repurposed into something new and wonderful, gets taken on this dodgy trip, and then I think I don't know what happens at the end of it. I think it just disappears.
It might die.
No, they dump it. They take it to the scrapper yard.
They crush it. They crush it. Yeah. So actually, it is the only character with a completely fully realized arc.
Yeah,
you're right.
No one else has one. No. There we go.
So I think I've put here that at times it's got like a TV pace to it, because you've got these scenes of the family, and it's good to give you a bit of background, but it doesn't give you that much background. It just gives you enough, but not enough, if that makes sense. You almost think you could have taken this film and made it like a 4-part series. Yeah. And I think it would have been worked really well. And the thing is as well, it's the age-old thing, like, you really want to know the premise of the film in the first 10 minutes. Now, okay, to a certain extent, the premise is there's an elite group of robbers and an elite group of sheriff's department people, and they're on a collision course. But actually, the big heist is the most interesting thing about this film. And it takes quite a while to even establish that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I got an hour into the film and then stopped it to go and get a cup of tea. Came back and looked and said, and I realized there was another hour and 10 minutes of runtime. Yeah. And at that point, an hour into the film, you already know there's going to be big robbery. You already know where it's going to be. And you already know that both sides know it's going to happen. And at that point, I was like, hang on, there's an hour left of this film. And this is where the story is.
And I think as well, because it starts off literally with a really explosive opening. And then it's very much in drama territory for about 50 minutes. Lots of talking, lots of posturing. And I don't know if you can you be like a Michael Mann film? And because the set pieces at the start and the end of this film are really good, good. But it's just, you want something a little bit more to happen in the middle. It does. I was the same. I was like, checking my watch and kind of thinking, well, I mean, I say that, but I mean, it held my interest enough in terms of the characters and the performances. I still wanted to know more about them. And I think it was at this point we found out that they're not gangbangers, they're the military. and they're taking it in a precision approach and not killing if they can help it. So the idea of them going after the Federal Reserve Bank, almost like the impossible heist, I liked that idea a lot. I was just like, okay, you've got half the film now to actually make this thing happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a long film. That's it, and I'm not normally one that a lot of some film critics, even like talking about Marvel films, they'll say, "Oh, it was good, but it could have lost 40 minutes." This, that, and the other. And I'm not one of those people. A film needs to be as long as it needs to be, and I quite enjoy some long films that work. But this is a rare exception where I wasn't exactly looking at my watch, but I thought you could have done this in like an hour and 30, and it would have been tight, and it would have been really kind of pacey, and you wouldn't have had. You could have just chopped out a lot of the kind of character stuff because they don't resolve any of it. That's the other problem.
And also, I think a lot of the character stuff is relies on tropes.
Yeah.
Well, if you're relying on tropes, then you don't need to show us very much at all.
Yeah.
It's almost like here's your third scene to understand that this guy is he probably drinks. Yeah. Or this guy is worse to his family than the criminals.
Yeah. It's like, we've seen he's equally bad with his family, Gerard Butler's character and Big Nick, but then Laveau's really good with his family. But it's like, hang on, so now you're trying to... But we've seen both scenes before. We've seen the scene where the hero, sort of the main protagonist in this case, gets caught doing something, the family leaves, and the wife storms off. We've seen that 100 times. We've seen the flip side where they intimidate a young man bringing the daughter. Wasn't it in... Lethal Weapon, where the guy comes.
Was it in Bad Boys?
Maybe, but Riggs or someone comes and they're intimidated because it's Riggs and it's his daughter and blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. And we've seen this before. So, and then I'm not gonna say who, but various characters die in the film, and it's like, right, so you've not resolved any of it. So I don't know why you put it there. It's that thing of if you show a gun in the first scene, at some point you need to fire the gun later on.
I think they were trying to go for this kind of, look, there's a group of guys with camaraderie on one side, and there's a group of guys with camaraderie on the other. So they're
both dodgy.
And so by the end, you'd go, oh no, everyone, all these people I've seen that have got camaraderie, they're going to all die, and I'm going to be really sad because of it. But it hasn't actually got the weight that it thinks it has.
No.
Yeah, I mean, this is jumping right on. There is a sequel in production,
right?
Actually, I shall, just in case someone has decided to listen to this and then pause it and then go away and watch the film, let's come on to what the sequel might involve a little bit later.
Okay.
Because
yeah,
quite a bit happens. Yeah, but I think, I mean, what I found really weird, because so Donnie, the driver, character, is kind of stuck in the middle because the police are onto him. They've sent him back in. And they're using him to kind of get information, but he's also still part of the crew, so he's kind of trapped. But I don't. Maybe you understand this scene better than I did. But there's a scene where Merriman and all the families of Merriman's side are all out for food.
Yes.
And Big Nick, the dick, goes into the bar or into the restaurant, and he kind of starts talking to Donnie like, "I know you from the gym" and all this, which blatantly is a lie.
Yeah.
But why did he do that? Is it just because he's a dick?
So it doesn't make any sense to me either. I watched it and I thought about it too. So it's a case of at the start of the film, they do the robbery, and then Merriman says, we need to know our enemy. And he sent a guy to take pictures of the crime scene that they've just robbed to see who's investigating it because they've killed a cop this time. And so they take pictures of Big Nick. He checks online, and Merriman finds out it's Big Nick O'Brien, his crew, blah, blah. So they know him, and, Donnie knows him because he's seen the photo, because they've all seen him. And so they know that he's looking into them. So then when having caught Donnie, got the info and sent him back in, he then goes to the restaurant, as you say, and confronts him in front of everybody. It doesn't make any sense, because Merriman knows who he is. He knows that something's going on. So if he's doing it to kill Donnie, to get them to turn on Donnie and kill him, that makes no sense, because he's then lost his inside man. If he's done it just to mess with Merriman, I don't see how that's going to help him. Also, by showing his face to Merriman, it shows that, hang on, I know there's something going on with you as well. So it's almost like a he can't help himself. And his friend tries to cover up, saying, "Oh, he didn't mean anything. He's drunk and blah blah blah." It's like he's just an awful person.
Yeah.
Even the point where he gets divorced in that scene, he's just a horrible character.
Yeah, he's kind of like machismo writ large. But it's weird. I don't know if it is just like a dick swinging contest. It's almost like, well, I want to see the whites of your eyes. It's like James Bond turning up at the casino, and knowing that everyone knows who he is. But I don't know. I mean, there's some stuff later which, again, there's lots of things which the biggest problems I have with the film do revolve around Nick's character.
Yeah.
And the fact that he, apart from a bit of swagger, I don't know. Just didn't like him. And he's, essentially, I think, well, most of the things that go wrong in the film are down to him.
Well, they should have renamed the character Jack Swagger. I think that would have been better. Yeah. But then there's go on.
Sorry, no, go on, carry on.
I was going to say, there's that other scene, like, we're jumping all over, it doesn't really matter. There's that other scene where Nick ends up in Merriman's house.
Yeah.
And there again, that was a weird thing. Like, all of that just so that he'd get his number on the phone. Surely he could have just have someone, a pickpocket, steal his phone whilst he's in the strip club, put his number in and drop it back in his coat. And there again, I didn't understand that. That it wasn't, the actor's fault, but I think it was just bad writing.
Well, yeah, she just goes, "I did what you told me to," and it's like, "What, you slept with a guy in order to get his phone number?"
Yeah, surely could have just done that another way. Just say, "Can I have your number? I'll call you." And Nick would be like, "Hey, great, a stripper wants my number. Brilliant. Here's my phone number." And then she doesn't do anything with it. And that's it. I've got your number. Passes it on to Merriman.
The only thing I thought was quite good from that scene is because Nick is there and literally with his trousers down, and he's put his gun and his badge on the side.
Yeah.
The only good thing there is Merriman could have killed him.
Yeah.
And he looked at him, and and I think that's what they're going for, a bit like a Western, a bit like Heat, is that they're these two men, and actually what they're enjoying is deciding who's the best, and that's more important than anything else, including their friends. But it doesn't work, no. I don't think. But I think what they were trying to do is go, look, he literally goes, "Oh shit," and goes for his gun, and like Merriman just kind of nods at him and walks out. It's like a boxer's weigh-in almost. It's yeah, is he just trying to put it here? Is he trying to get inside his head? But to what end?
Yeah, I don't know, because by their point in the film, they both know the other one knows. Yeah. And you've got Donnie caught in the middle, who's playing both sides off against each other now by sort of saying, and Merriman knows this, and he's saying,
well, they both know it.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, they just leave him in the middle because they both think they can still win regardless. And then they're just kind of the last hour of the film is this rush. The two of them are kind of running at each other towards this kind of big robbery that we know is coming. Yeah. And they both know something's going to happen. I
quite liked the pre-robbery.
Yeah.
I thought that was clever. So Merriman and his team essentially take over a smaller bank, the Paco Rivera bank, and they take hostages. And you're like, well, hang on, this isn't what they do. And even like Nick and the guys are watching them. And he's like, this isn't their normal MO. What the fuck are you doing, Merriman? And it's like, but there's an element you think, well, are they trying to get Nick into trouble? That's what I thought at first. Because Nick is basically there at a crime scene watching a crime happening and doing nothing because he's surveying. Because he has a bit of a falling out, doesn't he, with the FBI guy?
FBI, yeah.
And it's like, but actually the whole thing, again, is just an elaborate way to tunnel under to get into the Federal Reserve and to have the bags, I guess, and stuff from that bank.
It's the money. They want the money from there. Yeah. So they do actually rob the bank and they sort of pretend to kill people as well. That's the other thing. They don't kill hostages. They only
but they make it seem like they do.
Yes, they take someone off and say, if you try and come in every minute, I'll kill a hostage. If you do this, we'll kill a hostage. And then when you ask us a question on the negotiator, I'll kill a hostage. So they can hear a gunshot when they break the rules every time. But what they're actually doing is they're taking the person out, putting them in another room, just locking them in and pretending to shoot them. So it scares all the police outside. It scares Nick, and they don't really know what he's doing. And then when there's an explosion, they think they've killed all of the the hostages, but they haven't. They're saying, oh, that's them blowing the safe. And it's like, hang on, we've already seen them open the safe. So they've already stolen the money at this point, and because the bank manager let them in. So we don't even know what they did it for until later on. So I think you're right. The pre-robbery was quite clever in the way that it sets up other things. But it was what, an hour and a half into at this point to the film or something like that, and I was conscious of the time as well when I got to this.
Yeah, because part of me thought maybe they're not going to go after the Federal Reserve anymore, and they've changed their plan.
Yeah, I did too.
And I was like, oh, okay, they're going in here, and I thought, gosh, okay, we've still got the biggest part of the film to go, really.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me was a bit like, well, if that bank's been robbed, surely taking money from that bank to the Federal Reserve is going to flag something. But then I guess maybe that's the reason for the stat at the start. If there's a bank robbery every 48 minutes, it's such a standard thing. No one really bats an eyelid. And I suppose the way they went about that robbery is so unlike how they usually operate. It doesn't seem like them in a way. It seems like it was somebody else, somebody less professional.
Yeah. And they had that other guy on the phone systems tapping things and redirecting calls that made it look like it wasn't being robbed. And they were actually, Then again, if you're a robber, who drops off money at a Federal Reserve? Nobody. They dropped off like 2 massive crates full of money. So
I suppose
suspicious to anybody. The fact that they've stolen that money from the bank where they're supposed to be delivering it anyway, take it from there to the reserve at some point. It's just that they needed the truck and the money to get into the reserve to do it.
And I guess as well, because they're guys who have been in uniform, they can carry off kind of being security guards. They got that kind of air about them. Because you do kind of believe it. It's quite nerve-wracking watching the robbery play out once they do get into the Federal Reserve, because you are kind of conscious of. But again, for me, that's because I was rooting for them.
Yeah, you're more attached to them. It's not that they're particularly likable characters. Like, you feel bad for Donnie because he's this idiot driver who just wanted to earn some money, works at a bar, and he wanted to get a bit further, and then he sort of got caught up in this tangle of this, as you say, this fight between Big Nick and Merriman, and he's this piggy in the middle who's got caught by one, then got caught by the other, and has admitted his faults to both, and yet they've still left him with this awful job.
Yeah, and suddenly he's not just driving either, is he? He's a fake delivery guy.
Yep.
And actually he's the one who has to take the biggest risk by being the one in there unpacking the money.
It was really tense when he's in the middle of the actual reserve and they're counting it down and the guards are coming around doing the checks to make sure that everything's okay because of the power outage and all of that. And yet he's the one, as you say, right in the middle. And if he gets caught, the others can be like, oh, I don't know, he was there, I had no idea, and they'll probably get away with it. But he's no way he's going to get out of it, caught in the middle of the reserve with his hand literally in the cookie jar.
Yeah. So it's clever because they is it a brownout? They basically knock the power out to give them the time to do what they need to do. It's very clever. I mean, it's reminding me a bit of the first Ocean's 11 where, everything is, all these different little bits and pieces are being put together in this very meticulous plan.
Yeah.
And again, because we found out they didn't actually kill anyone in the bank, it did make you kind of warm towards Merriman's side.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're away as such, but it's actually Donnie on foot that's the big risk then, isn't it? Because he's walking away in his
takeaway
outfit, and it's kind of quite noticeable. And then to me, and I put here is that the sheriff's department are really gung-ho and trigger happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because they go and grab Donnie and he gets beaten up for about the 5th time in this film, and they take him in the car and they
handcuff him in the car
him to get information about where they've gone and stuff. But then they go after them and there's a kind of a cue or like a tailback. But then they just start shooting. That was the bit that kind of hit me. It's like, and again, maybe it's not being from America, but there's all these people in these cars. They go, everyone get down, but get down on the floor of your car. And they just get automatic weapons out. And it's an exciting kind of gunfight. And then there is like the big kind of chase on foot chase sequence. But I put here, this is more like the thrill of the Wild West than Justice. It doesn't seem to be about getting the people who've done these crimes. It's just about winning.
Yeah. As you said, the two characters, probably Big Nick more than anybody, he wants to win. He wants to prove that he's the best and catch the best, and therefore that somehow makes him the best if he's beaten the best or something. It's just this, as you say, he's so macho, he's so over the top that even the point where he's divorcing his wife and he goes to sign the papers, and there's a guy that's probably her new boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he's so much of an arsehole to everybody. He just walks into the house like he owns it, drinks the how's the wine? How's the wine? Yeah, how's the wine? And he's asking, and the other guy, it's his house. And he says, I think it's time for you to leave. And Nick's like, don't tell me what to do. So hang on, you've just walked into my house and you're harassing my guests. I would have called the police, except he's going, yeah, call the police. And he's being cocky. And it's like, yeah, because he is the police. So he's so unlikable that you don't really want him to win.
I think, and he's unlikable, and also he's like a composite of other scenes from other films put together in a way. I think Gerald Butler's performance is very good.
Yes.
At playing that role, as long as they don't want you. I mean, because there's a little thing like, he turns up at his kid's school, he's looking at her through the fence. It's like, that doesn't make him less of an arsehole.
No.
You're supposed to care about your kids, regardless of whether you're an arsehole or not. That doesn't. Maybe in some people's twisted kind of minds that, he shoots these people, but, he's nice to his kid. It's like, well, that's kind of something you should be doing regardless. You don't get extra points for being a human being.
No.
So it's, I think if his crew pretty much get taken out quite quickly, don't they? But then he manages to kind of pick off Merriman's men one by one, and it does he's almost like holding Merriman as he dies, and it is almost like, there's a bit of like a mutual respect kind of look.
Yeah.
Which,
because Merriman says, I told you I'm not going back. Like he wasn't going to go back to prison even if he lost this. And he said, I'm not going back. And he doesn't. He says, yeah, you did tell me. So there's just like that weird thing at the end where Merriman's lost, Big Nick's won, and you're probably supposed to feel relief or happiness that Nick's won, or that the crime. Yes, it's good that they've stopped robbing banks, and that's good for all the people involved in the banks and the people in the bank and so on. But by the same token, the people who have won aren't really that great. I mean, they don't actually show that they're corrupt. They show them drinking, smoking, buying clothes from a very dodgy place that suggests they've got money, but we don't know where they've got the money.
Yeah, it's interesting. The IMDb page says corrupt sheriff's department people.
Yeah.
Which I was a bit like, well, it shouldn't be the IMDb page that tells me that. It should. I guess it is hinted
it's
at.
Implied.
It is
we don't
implied.
see it. We don't see it anyway. Maybe that was cut for time. I don't know.
Maybe. It's not being an 8-hour film.
Yeah, I've got very mixed feelings about this film. Very mixed feelings, because it's just it sometimes it seems like it's all over the shop, and other times it's quite a good action film, and then it tries to do the drama thing, and then it does flashbacks. And I don't have a problem with this film not being non-linear in its storytelling, but this was trying to be too many things all at once, and then it was a really, really long film on top of that. So I struggled with it at times, to be honest.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then, should we now talk about the big reveal?
Yes, okay. Go ahead.
So then the film becomes, having been Heat for 2 hours.
Yep.
They thought, that's one 90s film everyone loves, but what other films they love? Oh, Usual Suspects. Everyone likes Usual Suspects. Yep. I know. Let's scatter some clues on a wall. There's homage and there's this. So basically they go back to the car. Donnie's not there. He's picked the handcuffs and he's disappeared, and all the money's been accounted for. So at the Fed, so in theory, no money is missing because he got away with it basically. And then they start, you suddenly start to realise that his picture in the football team and something he said at the bar about being the person who could control the room, and actually it was Donnie's plan all along, because you never quite knew where Merriman got this elaborate plan from.
No, he kept saying it's from a reliable source. Where he got, and I was wondering, hang on, he's got somebody inside of the Federal Reserve. How?
Yeah.
Who is it? And I kept thinking, oh, maybe it's one of the women that he's delivering the Chinese food to at one point.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No, it's Donnie himself. Because he can, while at a bar, he can listen to everyone's conversations to the point that he can rob the Federal Reserve.
The bar is across the street from the Federal Reserve, where he got the job. So he knew that people who worked there would come over there for a drink. And over the course of a couple of years of him working there, he listened to various people's conversations. And from that, was able to piece together some intel, or enough, to then rob the Federal Reserve.
But the bit I struggled with particularly here, apart from the fact this came completely out of the blue, was that if he gave the plan to Merriman in another flashback, and Merriman's like, well, it's got to be me and my crew. This is my job, not your job. You just gave us the information, but you're just, So the bit where they realise that Donnie knows Nick from the gym, and then they kind of rough him up. I don't understand that in the context of the fact that it was his job in the first place. Yeah.
So who's Merriman? So at that point, Merriman's doing that for us, the viewers.
Yeah.
He's not doing that for any of the other characters. So if he's trying to show the fact that, I don't actually know that it was Donnie who gave me the info, and I'm pretending, and therefore everything's still okay. It just gets really tangled. And the fact that there weren't any real clues until they gave us the flashback was what bothered me, I think.
Yeah, they planted the seed a bit better. I mean, it suddenly made me go, oh, okay, I should have realised something was coming, because there had to be a reason why Donnie was so focal at the start, but then wasn't. So they had a bit, you said before, about, gun in the first act, shoot it in the third act. So in a way, Donnie getting taken in for questioning and you finding out quite a bit through him was kind of setting this up. And again, just knowing there's a sequel on the way, it annoyed me, because for me, the heart of this film is Merriman and his team. Yeah. So the fact the sequel will be about Nick going after Donnie, because they're the only two characters, I guess, alive still that aren't like family members, and it's a very male film, so there's no need for ladies to be in the sequel.
No.
So it's basically the two people, and that's kind of interesting, but it's not. It's a person I'm not particularly interested in going after a person who I'm not particularly interested in, because the person I was interested in is dead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You got this person who's supposed to be the hero, but actually he's not really likable in any way, going after a thief who got away with it, but nobody knows because that there's no money missing technically.
Yeah.
But so he did actually get away with over $100 million or something.
And he got I did quite like the fact he's got a new job. Is it in Paris?
Nope, it's in
London. Working
opposite a diamond exchange.
Yeah.
And he's got an English accent, and he's working in a bar.
Which means it's going to be the Olympus has fallen, London has fallen thing. It's going to be Den of Thieves to Dirty Den of Thieves.
God blimey, Den of Thieves.
Statham would be in there.
Yeah, got to be at some point.
I thought I quite liked this film, but the more we've talked about it, I feel like maybe I didn't.
Shall we do some scores?
Yes.
Okay.
Enough with the yak. What is your score?
I'm happy to go first if you want.
Yeah, okay. I chose it. You go first.
Yeah. So I came in knowing, as I said, very little about the film. I went in fairly positive, but the more that I watched, the more I disliked the characters. I got halfway through, as I said, and paused it and thought, wow, there's still a lot of this film to go. And we're already at this point and we know where it's going. And then they kind of swerve and try to do the Kaiser Soze thing. None of the characters are particularly likable. They do a lot of family stuff, and then there's flashbacks. And I think it's a lot of different films in one. I think they were trying to be really clever, and it wasn't as clever as it thinks it was. I think the acting was outstanding. I think all of the cast, especially Gerard Butler and Pablo Shreiber, were very good as playing those characters. Shea Jackson Jr., as you said, he was really convincing as Donnie. I really liked him. I didn't suspect him at any point of what he was actually up to. So you can't fault the acting, but I just think the structure of the film and the way it was put together, and I guess that's down to the writing, it didn't really work for me at all. So there was some action, not going to deny that, but we'd never take the film on just, is there a lot of shooting or not? It's what we think of the film. So I'm actually only going to give it 2 bags, which sounds quite harsh, but it's not really, because I think it's an okay film, but it's not something I'd go back and watch now. What about you? What would you give it?
No half bags, no half bags, no half bags. So I'm on a half bag in my head, but I can't obviously give a half bag.
So the score has to be from 1 to 5.
I have to decide whether to round up or round down.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting debate I'm having right now live. I enjoyed it. It is a slow burn, but it doesn't quite get where you think it's going to get in a way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the emotional weight I think it thinks it has. And as I said before, you feel most for the people that are the secondary characters in a way. I think you're supposed to feel a bit for them both, but maybe like Nick a bit more. But I'd rather watch a film, if they're going to make another one, that's a prequel about Merriman and his team when they were soldiers.
Yeah.
To be honest, or maybe doing a heist as soldiers. Or there's another film very similar to that coming out soon. So yeah, what I did like about it, it was very well made and very well shot. It looked very good, and like you say, good performances. And it is that kind of middle ground between the big blockbuster film. And when I saw it was The London Has Fallen guy, I thought it was going to be that kind of slightly lower budget, kind of a bit cheesy kind of end of things, which it isn't. Yeah. It's a very solid kind of. It's a very 90s film.
Yes.
It reminded me, not just because it's stolen from so many, but it just has that kind of films that were just kind of well made, a little bit of weight to them, and were just good. They see more of these kind of films being made then. I am going to round my score up, and I'm going to give it 3 bags.
Okay.
Because and I think I will be looking out for Pablo Shreiber and his future endeavors, because I've not seen any of the things you mentioned he'd been in before. It's very rare for me to watch a film and go, I have never seen that person before in my life, unless they're very young. So I think for me, he's the standout star from this film. Because I know, know what Gerard Butler can do already. So it was interesting to see someone else as his foil.
Definitely. I think that's fair. Okay. So wrap us up, Pete.
Thank you for listening. If indeed you still are.
Good night.
Good night.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.